This is McCook's Mr. Bill, so honored to have you here. You're usually here for a story, but I'm going to give you two stories this film. And it starts out with me doing some work for a farmer, and he lets me then fish at his pond, a private pond. And I did. I had a great time fishing, and I fished with my 10 carp. I love that little 10 carp for small fish. With that in mind, he then said, would you please go over to the other pond when you're done fishing and feed the grass carp that he'd put in there some 30 years ago. I said, I'll do that. I said, I might even throw a line in after them. He said, don't waste your time. He said, nobody's ever caught a fish out of there yet. No one has. He said, if you catch them, but he said they break the line. He said they're just too big. Almost 4 feet long at 30 years old they are. A monster grass carp. Okay. So I threw the feed out there, and they came boiling up. There's about a dozen of them. And they just keep that pond almost clean of all vegetation. It's incredible how much they eat. And I took out a rod. It was a fly rod, 8-foot fly rod. And I just stuck a Zebco 202 kids reel, $7 kids reel on there with a 6-pound test. And I was going to be fishing with some fly, like this little bad boy. And just a fly, trout fly. And I thought, well, if nothing else, maybe I'll catch a few crappie, because there were supposedly some crappie in there. So I tossed it out, but I tossed it out where I had thrown the pellets for the grass carp. And all of a sudden, the reel, the drag on it went ring, and off a grass carp went with my fly, my trout fly. And he would get almost to the other side, 150 yards away, and I would reel ever so slowly, ever so carefully with that 6-pound test, and I would get him back, and then he'd take off again. And again and again, this process happened. And after about 10 minutes, my arthritis was really starting to bother me, so I called my wife, and I said, get down here and help me. And she was here within 5 minutes. And I handed her the rod and reel, and I said, good luck. And she was doing her best, and he was having fun with her. I was exhausted with my hands hurting, and she fought him for another good 10 minutes herself. And neither one of us could get anything done. And again, part of the problem, we didn't want to put much pressure on that 6-pound test line, not counting a fly. You know, that's a pretty small little hook, if I get it up there. That's a pretty small hook to be trying to bring in maybe a 20-pound carp plus. So the best that we could do, we did, and we got him finally within about 10-12 feet of shore. You could easily see him in the length that he was, and he made one lunge back though and snapped the line, and it was all done. And I was so grateful to have that happen, in so much as just because I lost him isn't the problem. It was just such a wonderful event to fight such a monster with so little, you know, and still do so well and last so long in the battle. Absolutely. My wife and I will talk about it for many years to come. That is the first story. I then told a person here in McCook, a well-to-do man and a very highly educated man, and he said, you know, it's been a long time since I went fishing. I'm gonna go fishing. And so he went to an area sand pit to do some fishing, and darned if in no time he caught about a 3-pound largemouth bass. Now he had used a lure with 2 treble hooks on it, and as he got him up there, he was reaching for the fish and holding it the rod up, and the fish flipped just right and sunk one of the treble hooks into his hand, including one of the barbs went into his knuckle, into the bone itself, deep enough that he could not pull it out. That's how serious it was. And the fish is still fighting. And so down onto the ground he goes, and trying to control the fish till he can get the hook out of the fish's mouth. And he finally did that. He then had to go to the emergency room and spend many hundreds of dollars to have them push the hook on through, mind you, and cut off the barb and then pull it back out the other way. Yeah, And he said that was a good education, that he didn't have the respect for the fish or for the hook. And he said, I will, never make that mistake again. And many of you sometimes gets a little bit careless around those hooks and not realizing that a fish could get you into a bucket of trouble real quick. Thank you for your time.